Welcome aboard, all you wonderful groomers, pet stylists, and canine cosmetologists. You found the Traveling Groomers podcast, where we discuss lessons learned from mobile and house call grooming. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Bear Anthony. Any moment now, we'll be joined by my co host and friend, retired mobile groomer and educator extraordinaire, Mary Aquendo, and very likely a special guest to help us chat about all things grooming, grooming industry related, and just plain fun digressions that I will totally wrangle back to topic. Grab those travel mugs and climb aboard to see where today's topic will bring us. Let's roll. Hello, Mary.
Hello, Chris.
I'm excited. I'm excited today. Oh, wait. let me do my thing. Let me do my thing. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 235 of the Traveling Groomers podcast, recorded on November 1st and will be airing on November 15th. Mary, why am I so excited today? Do we know? Do we know?
Yeah, it's going to be one of these podcasts where I'm going to be fairly silent.
Oh, because of our fabulous special guest, we're going to be talking about ergonomics today, and I'm going to be geeking out just a little bit. I'm going to do a lot of this, like, yes, talk. So, Nikki, go ahead and introduce yourself because I've had the pleasure of speaking with you and your husband before. So,
yeah, thank you, Chris, and nice to meet you, Mary.
Nice to meet you.
My name is Nikki Weiner, and I'm a licensed occupational therapist and an ergonomic specialist. And I'm also president and co-founder of the Rising Workplace. And so we work with clients all over the place on all types of jobs, just simply making them safer and a better fit for humans. So any industry from grooming to beer brewing to cheese making to metal fabrication to offices, the list goes on and on. So anything that falls under the umbrella of assessment, consultation, or education is basically what we do at the Rising Workplace. And my husband and I started the business about 8 years ago, and I get really tickled when we get to do a fun project related to an interesting industry like grooming. Oh, I should say too, one more thing. My very first job was working in a kennel. And then I progressed my way up to vet tech. I kind of did that through college as I was deciding what the heck I was going to do with my life. And so I'm an animal lover, worked closely with groomers, and really love anything having to do with animals and taking care of animals.
And Mary, I heard about Nikki and the Rising Ground because when I was at the Dallas show, a group came over, and it was a groomer and her team, all of her employees, to look at the swivel shears and to hear us talk about why we like evolution shears and what the deal is with the swivels. And I started talking about the ergonomics of it. And usually when I do this, I get anywhere from blank looks to, oh, like I'd never thought about that, or just surprised, like, wow, that makes so much sense. But she was on the ball. She got there before I did. I started talking about the elbow, and she's like, yes. And then it goes to the shoulder and this, and everything is in alignment. And I went, you know stuff. This is amazing. And she's like, oh, well, we had this ergonomics firm come and do an assessment. And Mary, I speak about ergonomics and how much I love it. And I can't hear you now.
That's because I'm mouthing the words.
Oh, okay. So I'm like, I was so excited because in all my research, I hadn't found anyone, or I hadn't found information specific to grooming. So I was like, I have to talk to these people and I have to get them on the podcast. So we had a list of questions, Mary. Do you want to throw some out, or are you just going to sit there and let me geek?
Because I have a specific question I want to ask her that was not on your list.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh, no.
You forgot something, Chris.
Well, that's why I emailed it to you and said, tell me what I forgot.
Should I ask my question first?
And then I'll add it to the list before I email Nikki. So if I forgot something that you remembered, that's on you for not telling me. But yes, ask your question. Both of us are now scared.
Oh no, it's really simple. Okay. So I think sometimes what we forget is that we do office work, we do admin work, we sit at a desk and we do things. All right. So it's not just grooming. All right. I spend a lot of time here at my desk. So my question for you is, all right, what is really the best type of chair? Like I have a gaming chair here, but is that really the best chair for me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, seating is really important, especially when you're working at a computer workstation. And the answer is there's not one chair that's perfect for everybody, but there's kind of a set of features that you would want and checkpoints when you kind of examine yourself in your chair that you would want to go for in the perfect chair. Now, gaming chairs, they're better than like executive style chairs. They have the high back, which is not a bad thing. It supports your body well. But the other kind of questions I would ask is, does it adjust in height? So that when your arms are relaxed at your sides, like I'm doing right now, your elbow can line up with your desk at the same height, essentially.
I don't know.
So we're going to take you through a quick ergo now.
Okay. It's got some.
So,
I think we are
here, so maybe.
Nice. So you'll have to investigate what all the paddles and levers do. One of them is height for sure. And so you want to make sure you have the right height for you in relation to your computer workstation. The problem is a lot of us sit too low in the chair because we're trying to get our feet on the ground. How tall are you, Mary?
I'm about 5'4".
So do you use a footrest?
No.
So it could be once you get your chair to the correct height, then your feet are not supported and that you would benefit from using a footrest. And then because the idea is supporting your body in a neutral position. And for example, when your feet kind of kick underneath you, start to lean forward in the chair. When you perch in the chair, then your back starts to slouch. And so it just makes it so much easier on us if we have a setup that just makes it happen automatically rather than having to think too hard about our posture. Okay. So chair height, you want to make sure you're in the right range. The other thing is that your back is well supported. So there's a curve on the chair back that should match the curve of your back. And you might see if the chair adjusts in that way at all, if there is a piece or a mechanism that adjusts the lumbar. When you are sitting all the way back in the chair, something else to look for is there pressure at the back of the knees? So are you getting that kind of press at the back of the knees? That creates some contact stress that can cause some discomfort symptoms. And so that's a checkpoint there too. From there, if you have armrests, make sure they're adjustable so that your shoulders are nice and relaxed and close to your body, and that the chair should have some type of a tilt tension mechanism. So in summary, a chair that fits most people, height adjustable, tilt tension, seat pan adjustment, lumbar adjustment, and adjustable armrests. And it's not one size fits all.
All right. So I'll be playing around with this chair after this podcast is over.
Yeah. Investigate what it does, right? So what are all the bells and whistles, and then take advantage, and then kind of walk yourself through all of those checkpoints. And you can I can send you like a one-pager. You can go to our website and you can kind of walk yourself through a little assessment and make sure you're positioned well.
Okay. So again, the name of your website?
Oh, it's www.risingworkplace.com.
All right. So my next question, workplace.com, is I've seen those computers where you have to like the desk where you have to stand for the desk. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Yeah, they're popular. So people kind of think, well, okay, I'm more ergonomic now because I can stand at work, and that's not true. So standing is not superior to sitting. You know this as groomers. Mm-hmm. Standing can be a pain, quite literally a pain. And so the benefit of a standing desk is for the person that needs variation and maybe has a poor sitting tolerance because of a medical condition, but you achieve more through movement. So if you are the type of person who says, hey, standing is really not the comfortable working position for me, as long as you're taking enough movement breaks during the day, then you're covered as far as the benefits of getting the benefits of movement and standing. And, when you're doing an intensive computer task, it's really better to support your body and be seated. But, in honesty, I have a standing desk and I use it for things like when I'm doing a presentation or when I'm kind of, end of the day, casual meetings, setting up my schedule, like more kind of casual interaction with the computer. And that's a smart way to use it as well. So functionally, it can be, nice. Some people, again, medically or health reasons, that variation of posture helps them a lot. But it's not synonymous with ergonomics. You still have to look at the entire setup of your workstation. You can't just kind of ditch the other recommendations just because you have a standing desk. I think it's so ridiculous when I see like an advertisement for a standing desk and you see somebody working off a laptop, like at the standing desk. I was like, okay, you have a standing desk, but everything else about this setup is really contributing to a lot of bodily stress. So tell me what the point is here.
So ideally, maybe one of those sit stand desks that you can change your position throughout the day, because part of the point is not having repetitive movements and not having continual strain. So if you need a stretch break, but you're in the zone, move it to the standing desk, maybe.
Right, exactly. And so the other piece of, if you're looking to invest in that kind of desk, one that's a sit stand, is check the range, just like your chair. Make sure that when you're seated in your chair, that the lower end of the desk is low enough for you. That's a lot of the desk manufacturers miss that mark. And if you're 5'4", I'm 5'7". How tall are you, Chris?
I'm about between 5'7" and 5'8".
Yeah, so like we're all kind of in this category of pretty average height for females, yet the average design of desk does not really include us for the seated position. So
yeah,
you really have to look at that closely. When you're looking, especially in investment, like it's kind of expensive. Those standing desks are becoming less expensive, but you want to look at that range and make sure it's a good fit for you.
it's a tall people problem, because you're talking about the elbows, and I'm like, yes, my elbows should be at neutral position, but because I'm a taller person and this is a secondhand desk, for me to get so that my legs fit under the desk, my elbows aren't exactly. So I'm like, oh no, I'm pretty sure these adjust. So yeah, I'm also going to be playing with my desk. I've
what it is too? Torso. Like if you think about where your elbow falls in your torso, my elbow like sits in my lap basically. So I need a desk that's like low. But if your elbow sits higher on your torso and you're long torsoed, then right, it's even more than height. It's called anthropometrics. It's the study of human bodily dimension, and how that's basically what furniture is designed based on. But I find that it doesn't always work that way.
You know who needs to study that too? The people who do plus size clothing, because there's a difference in, are you longer torsoed? And I'll have some shirts that will fit me, except the armholes are like huge because it fits me lengthwise, but it's built for someone of a different body shape. It's frustrating.
Yeah, so, you're speaking my language. That is very true.
Oh,
I have one more question on chairs.
I have more questions on chairs, but first it is time for our first commercial break. It's actually been time, but we were excited. So hang on, hold that thought. I love being a house call groomer, but I hate doing laundry or worrying about asking my clients for fresh towels. Raypet has solved those problems for me with the Wet Pet disposable towel. Taking up much less space than traditional cotton towels and easy to wring out and reuse, these super soft, comfy, absorbent towels eliminate any cross-contamination concerns between pets. And now their new smaller washcloth size can even help those sensitive eye areas. Great for cleaning out wrinkles gently and thoroughly. Need to keep water bowls for your clients on hand that are easy to disinfect, but hate all the room traditional clanky metal bowls take up? Or just have a very active pet? Their collapsible silicone bowl comes with an aluminum D-ring hook that can be attached to your pet's leash or anywhere else in your van for easy storage. You can get one by itself or in their handy travel kit, along with a set of 3 tick removers and 1 small wet pet towel. So stop by their website to check it out, raypet.net, and tell them the Traveling Groomer sent you.
And my armrests do adjust.
Woohoo!
Yes.
Okay, so Mary, what's your other question about
All right.
chairs?
So, sometimes it's hard to know whether things are a fad or they have real value to it. Okay. So what about those kneeling chairs?
Not good for most people. That's more in the fad category, especially because they don't adjust the way that most chairs or task chairs do. And so then you're trying, they may cause you to then reach up as a consequence because it's too low. Same thing with the ball chairs. The idea is that it's putting your pelvis, it's kind of tilting your pelvis in a position that's going to help you with spinal alignment. And so that idea is good, but you can achieve that by sitting in the chair with your hips higher than your knees. So raising this current chair that you have. But I have had clients that have had very strong opinions about kneeling chairs. And so what I say to them is, we're all different. You want to do everything as you can tolerate it. If you experience any pain or discomfort while you're using a kneeling chair, you shouldn't use it. If you have knee problems, back problems, balance issues, just cross it off the list. But if you use it and you like it and you're comfortable, then use it in conjunction with a task chair. So don't let that be your all day long chair, but maybe you use it for the purpose of variation, just like the point about the sit stand desk is that you're putting your body in a different position that's hopefully neutral, but it allows a slight change of posture. So generally bad, but they can be used in a way to somebody's benefit if they use it like with another chair. And again, we're not all the same. And so I can't, conclude that it's terrible for everybody.
Okay.
All right. So one of my questions about chairs, because that was on our list, was sitting to groom, because I recently got a saddle stool and I've been working through how to sit in that correctly, but I don't want to be super melodramatic and say it saved my life, but it saved my finances because as I mentioned, had a surgery on my ankle. So I'm just now starting to walk, and that's with a limp and a cane. So I've been sitting to groom. So it's been a lifesaver. So what are your tips on sitting to groom? Or your thoughts?
I think it's probably a good thing, but it probably, and this is something you probably learned when you were sitting to groom, is that you kind of have to be strategic about how you work in which pattern on the pet. Because then you might find yourself, because your rear is planted in a seat, then are you having to reach up high, and it's kind of cumbersome to adjust the seat or adjust the table, when if you're standing, you can kind of make these adjustments with your body without having to make them with your arms. So that would be kind of the negative, I guess, or just the thing to be aware of is kind of how are you strategically moving along the pet in a way that you're not, because you're sitting, reaching all over the place. But it is probably very good for the back and to kind of anchor your body. You're taking a lot of the stress off the spine. You're maybe doing less repetitions. What I would suggest is, if you're twisting, try and turn the chair instead of turning your back. So naturally you'll be twisting and turning when you're performing these activities. What you want to do is attempt to turn the chair with your body instead of twist your body. Mm-hmm. And you basically want your ears aligned with your shoulders and your hips. And that means, if you can, keep contact with your backrest, and you'll be more likely to stay in that position. Because if you're perching forward or unsupported, well, I guess you said it was a saddle seat though, is that correct?
Yes. So I'm trying to tilt forward on my sit bones, mm-hmm. and remember to have better posture. So I have more freedom of movement. Like I like the idea of my back being supported, but when I'm moving around a dog, I don't like the idea of my elbows hitting the back behind me if I have to move. So the saddle stool seems good for that, but.
So the saddle stool is good for that. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't have, if it has a backrest, it's not much of one at all. And that's because it's designed for that exact type of task. So, it kind of playing into that same idea of the kneeling chair, it's kind of tilting you in a way where your pelvis is in a position where naturally you will have a better position of the spine without the back support. So, mm-hmm. So it may be more about, in that case, making sure your feet are well supported. So rather than having your feet kind of kicked underneath you, having them planted on the ground is a great way to anchor in when you don't have a backrest or when the chair isn't designed for that. And adjusting the height so that generally your elbows are staying close to your side, not so much winging out, reaching up. There will be some of that, of course, but is there a kind of a setting or a height where you can do less of that?
And I think that's where also having the electric table comes in, because if you have an electric table over a hydraulic, it's easier to adjust for that as you're sitting and you're like, oh, I got to get to his head. Let me lower him a little bit instead of reaching up.
Exactly.
So is there a golden rule on how to determine table height, on where we should have our table height, or is it just all about keeping our elbows at that neutral position?
That's definitely part of it. So there are some loose rules. Okay, so if it's light work, something that you would compare to using a mouse and keyboard, that maybe like using the clippers, it's a little bit less fine motor, it's more of a grasp. Generally, you want to work elbow level there. So this depends on your height in terms of the right table height. So generally, elbow level is the zone for light work. But once you start to think about doing more fine motor, like using scissors, then you're trying to negotiate your line of sight and try to also, in addition to reaching up, try and not stoop and bend too much, right? Because if you think about during the fine motor work, you really need it to be slightly higher. So generally a little higher than elbow height for a precision fine motor, because then you'll be at the expense of your back, bending over, stooping over, trying to see what you're doing. And then on the flip side, heavier work. So this makes sense. Lifting an animal from the ground to the table, heavy work. Table should be lower. You don't want to lift it to the same height as when you're doing your fine motor precision work. So rule of thumb is generally heavy work below elbow level, maybe well below, if you're doing something like transferring a pet to a table or something that requires any amount of force. Kind of regular work about elbow level, and then fine motor precision a little higher.
Okay. Awesome. Well, it's about that 10-minute mark. So I'm going to go and get back on track and hit another button, and we'll be right back with more questions. And speaking of continuing education, because we either were or will be, join the Andis world-class education team each month for live interactive virtual classes. You'll learn new and trending styles, as well as tips and tricks from some of the best groomers in the industry. Whether you're looking for basic skills, trending styles, advanced techniques, or even just ways to spark your creativity, the new Andis Grooming Education site is your source for finding what you need to create your way for success. Try new techniques, learn from the pros, and grow your confidence today at andis.com/groomer education. Traveling Groomer podcast listeners, hey, that's you, can get 25% off your first course today with the code VEGROOMING at checkout on andis.com/groomer education. All right. I was just going over our list of questions and I'm like, I don't know if we're going to get through these in an hour. So I'm going to jump around and hit some highlights. So when you were working with the groomers, what is the number one thing that surprised you when you were learning about the grooming industry? I mean, did you have any preconceptions going in? And what was the one thing that really made you go, oh, wow?
The risks were not surprising to me, and also kind of my familiarity with that environment. We've done some other projects with animal care and handling. And so I kind of knew all the risks would be there. And you think about other kind of professions that are using scissors, like hairdressing, vibrating tools like dentistry. These are all high risk professions. So as soon as they reached out, I was like, yeah, this doesn't surprise me. Honestly, the thing that surprised me the most is I didn't know about the swivel shears. And that was kind of like, oh, this is cool. I didn't know this existed. So that was a good surprise when I learned about those, in the realm of what we call ergonomic controls. So we have a problem, and I think I knew there was going to be problems, but also, hey, here's like a kind of a cool solution that I didn't know about, I wasn't aware about. So that stuck out to me as a surprise.
That was also on our list to talk about swivel shears. And because everyone just has shears in their desk, one of the reasons Evolution is our sponsor is, if you're watching this on YouTube and you're a groomer, you know this motion is just ergonomically horrible. And I'm putting my thumb to my ring finger as we normally do. But swivel shears that are fit properly to your hand, I can keep my wrist straight. I'm raising my elbow because I'm showing it to the camera, y'all. Calm down. But yeah, I discovered swivel shears early, and it did make a huge impact in my grooming and in my pain level, or not pain level specifically, at the end of the day. But so what are the top 3 things that you would tell every groomer just off the bat, or even like top 1, like if the number 1 thing is so important, like what are the top things you'd tell any groomer?
I would say, when it comes to ergonomics and understanding kind of the hazards related to your work, prevention is so much better than reaction. And so I wish that there was a kind of a required module for ergonomics for everybody interested in entering your field, because once you develop an injury, it basically is because of cumulative stress that happens over time to the body. And it's hard to kind of get back to where you were before that started. And the other thing is, behavior is so hard to change. So I'm sure you have many people in your industry who have like, it's an art, right? I mean, the way that they do it is probably unique to them. They have their own style of doing it. It's a craft. But then you have somebody like me come in and say, oh, you should do this differently. It's not an easy thing to hear.
It's tough to hear. It's tough to hear. I hear it all the time at trade shows from when I'm working at the Evolution booth, and people are like, I've been grooming for 20 years. I'm not either. I can't, I'm not, I won't, I'm fine. There's a lot of resistance to change, and I understand that. And it's just good when we see new groomers and when we can talk to them about ergonomics. There's the possibility for a major tangent about education, because you said, oh, I wish that was required. I don't know if you realize the tip of the iceberg that touched on regarding education and licensing and requirements. And we're not even going to go there today, because it seems like a tiny thing, but there's Titanic level iceberg stuff underneath the water. And every groomer listening is like, oh yeah, this is a thing. This is definitely a thing. But
yeah, so many layers to why somebody, like, just in terms of behaviors, again, like there's pride in what you do, there's art in what you do. And so, that's why the idea is starting early, creating standards around the way that you interact with the pet, and how you use your tools and how you adjust your workspace, and that being kind of an integral part to how you learn in the very beginning. And so my number 1 thing would be, get on the ergo boat early. Prevention is better than reaction. In addition to that, kind of understanding then, knowing that your job is high risk, and all of the risk factors are there. All of the ergonomic risk factors are there. This idea of you're entering into this profession, or maybe you've been in it for several years, you have to have some strategies to offset some of the stress to the body, that have to do with kind of adopting different behaviors. So warming up before work, kind of warming up the body areas, making sure you're staying hydrated, taking sufficient breaks, not powering through just because, I know it's hard because I'm sure you have schedules and you probably have to work at a rapid pace a lot of times. But being aware of these self-care strategies, knowing that you're going to have to mitigate that risk somehow. And so having a plan for that. And then also, maybe my 3rd tip would be, in addition to having these proactive strategies, things that you do because otherwise you're exposing your body to stress, is having a set of recovery strategies. So what do you do when you're having pain? What are do you have a set of stretches you can go to at the end of the day? Are you planning your other outside work activities smart? It's maybe not smart for a dog groomer to also have a hobby in knitting or
No, it's just about,
so you have to kind of fit in these rest periods and this variation to let the body heal. Essentially, you're putting stress on the body. At the end of the day, you have to let it heal somehow. And so a lot of it is strategic thinking ahead and understanding the risks. And that kind of falls into all three of the tips that I just provided.
I was just about to say I crocheted for a while, and it was not the smartest hobby I ever picked up. I liked it, but boy, my hands kind of hurt. And I'm like, why? Why am I doing this to myself after working? But
you bring up a really good point in that you use the word strategy.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think sometimes we're in the here and now, and we're not thinking long term. All right. So my daughter started grooming in her 20s, where she was pretty much made out of jello at that point still. Okay.
It doesn't mean you can't hurt yourself.
Correct. Okay. But it also, she didn't adopt really good habits out of the gate because of that. So the fact that you use the word strategy is just, I think a lot of groomers, we lack strategy for just like almost every aspect of what we're doing. If we don't have strategy for ergonomics, we don't have strategy for retirement or for continuing education or any of that. But anyway, that was a slight digression.
Only a little digression. Mary, has it really been another 10 minutes already?
Hey, listen, I feel like we're going to do positive ed. Instead of running that commercial, maybe we'll talk about the wellness summit. That's the private summit for members only that you're teaching an ergonomics class in.
Well, Mary, tell me about that summit then. When is that summit? That's the recorded one in December.
Yes. So December for positive ed is a private summit, meaning you cannot buy it. You can only attend it if you have a summit membership. Right. So it is pre-recorded. It'll still have the closed captioning and the transcripts. Right. It's just not going to be live. Right. So you could watch it at your own leisure. But one of the classes that are being taught, I mean, it's still 10 hours. It's still 10 hours of classes. It's just all pre-recorded. Chris is doing her ergonomics class. Michelle Knowles is doing a class on yoga. Melissa Conti Diener is doing compassionate touch therapy for pets. Valerie McFadden is doing something on burnout, and Angie Coates is going to teach you how to use the word no.
That's my favorite word because I'm this many,
Right, so it's so the memberships are $97 a month. You will have 6 weeks access to it, and you don't have to do anything to register for it. You just have to have a membership. That's it.
Okay, so I didn't have to press a button.
You do not have to press a button there.
Fantastic. Now I have to look up my next. Oh, that's what I wanted to ask you. So is there any grooming tool that you've encountered in your research with this that you just absolutely hate on an ergonomic level? Like you've seen a bunch of them besides non-swivel shears, or you can say non-swivel shears. Like, is there any tool you're just like, oh, wow, that just looks so painful?
It may be surprising because it doesn't maybe require as much precision as the other tools, but the clippers, because there's
the vibration.
Yeah. So exactly. So I just look at how those are used, how they have to be used. And you have awkward posturing, you have repetition, you have grip force, you could have contact stress in the palm and vibration. So every risk is there. And then of course there's terrible things like hand-arm vibration syndrome that can develop when you use vibrating tools a lot. I'm not sure to what degree that's common in grooming based on how often you use clippers versus your other tools, but I'm scared of the clippers.
Yeah, there's not a lot of health studies for groomers. Okay.
There's not, and it makes me mad. Like it makes me legitimately angry on a cellular level because there's a lot of us. And anyway,
Well,
I'm not
we need
going
to
to
do
go
one. How can we do one?
I don't know. Well, we'll talk about that. I think we should look into ways to do one.
And I think we have a lot of people in our industry that come from other industries because they burnt out on theirs and now they want to work with animals. Okay. We do have researchers who are groomers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I can think of two people right off the top of my head. One of them is Michelle Knowles and the other one is Tiffany Neal. Right. And that's just off the top of my head. Never mind anybody else.
Right. Okay. So we are going to stay in touch and figure out how we are going to do these studies. But in the meantime, regarding those clippers, those grips that they have, does that help at all? Like those rubber grips they put around the clippers does it do any cushioning, or does it just kind of help you hold it and not have to grip it as hard?
I think it probably does work to some degree, but it doesn't eliminate all of the risk. It probably reduces the grip force a little bit.
Okay.
So any industry where you have to grip something, you see grip gloves, or even when I used to work in hospitals in the rehab environment, you would use grip on a variety of surfaces to help somebody who otherwise didn't have a great grip strength. And so I think there's a practicality there.
And we all have that callus on the ring finger of our dominant hand because we hold the clipper kind of like a pencil. So that's where that callus goes to some extent or another. So, all right. And by the way, I wanted to clarify, when she is talking about risks, she's not talking about bite risks. She's talking about ergonomic risks. From your experience in a kennel, you already knew that bite risks were a thing. But so good floor mats and good shoes. Let's talk pressure points for a minute, because we kind of hinted on it with the clippers, because that's involved with the clippers as well. But what can we do to eliminate some of those pressure points while standing?
Yeah, using anti-fatigue surfaces. So if you have anti-fatigue insoles, which they make some, and I can't say particularly like what the name of the brands are, but they're specifically designed for standing work, and they're insoles that go in your regular shoes. Then you less of a need for an anti-fatigue mat if you're walking around with those in your shoes. And that does help. It can help with back pain, foot pain, just kind of decrease those compressive forces on the spine. It's not the most powerful control. They always say PPE, things like that, are at the bottom of the pyramid, so to speak. But I think if we can do things from all parts of the pyramid, then we're winning to some degree. And then anti-fatigue mat, I always say you want to look at kind of the functionality. So making sure it fits with your environment, you have to probably clean the hair off of it a lot. So
make sure it's disinfectable and non-slippable.
Yes, all of those things. And so those will be your decision points with an anti-fatigue mat, is making sure it fits within your environment as far as avoiding a trip hazard.
Well, another reason for having an anti-fatigue mat on your floor, okay? So that when you drop your $300-400 pair of scissors, it lands on the anti-fatigue mat and not on the hard floor. I let that be the point that I was going to make for anti-fatigue mats, because I'm going to drop my scissors, and that's a given.
It's just a sad thing when you drop the scissors. Whenever you work in a grooming shop and you hear something metal hit the floor, there's always it's just a comb. It's okay. It's okay. Wait, it's my $100 comb. Wait, it's not okay. That's
and shoes. Okay, so let's talk about that, because there are groomers and person
that groom in flip-flops.
They groom in flip-flops. Oh, I love that face.
Okay, guys, for those of you listening to the audio, we made the ergonomics expert make a horrible face. Like, yeah, that's terrifying, right?
Yeah.
We're
Is
still
this
in
part of your
spooky
rabbit
season.
hole on education? Is that part of that conversation of kind of creating standards on safe practice?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's 100% down that rabbit hole. And I've gotten grief, mild digression, because I've posted one or two videos online and people have gone like insane on me because in the pictures I was barefoot. But let me explain. I'm a house call groomer. The only place to wash the dog was in a walk-in shower. So my choices are, then I am caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. I can either kneel and really kill my knees, my back, my hips, and everything else, or I can take off my shoes, roll up my pants, and get in there with them and only kill my back a little bit. So, yes.
Okay, let's touch on that, okay? Because the two predominant groups that listen to this, the traveling groomers, okay, they're mobile groomers or they're house call groomers, okay? So mobile groomers are going to have a tub,
Yeah.
okay? House call groomers are not, and they're going to rely on what is available in the owner's home, okay? Sometimes that's a kitchen sink, sometimes it's a tub. And the one time that I had to groom a dog in the tub, okay, I swore I would never do it again in my life. When I actually had this house built and I still had a dog that required bathing that was too big for my kitchen sink, I had a professional tub installed so I would not have to bathe that dog in the tub.
Yeah, it's not pleasant. And actually, even as a house call groomer, I'm fully capable of bathing dogs in the tub, but it sucks and hurts. And when I got a poodle that needed regular grooms, I went, I need a tub that goes up and down in my garage because I can't do that to my back anymore.
All right. So what can people who don't like the house call groomers, what can they do to help sort of minimize the fact that they are bending over tubs or standing in tubs? How could they mitigate some of the damage to that they're doing to their back?
Mm-hmm. So, and I feel this because I have had young kids and I have bathed them in the tub and it felt like the worst thing ever for my back.
Yeah.
So I know what it feels like. Plus, there's this added factor of animals probably don't listen as well to your please stay here. Please, like trying to control their movement while they're in the tub because I mean maybe sometimes they like the bath, but I imagine sometimes they don't like the bath.
Yeah, you'd be right.
So the strategy there is when you're bending over, whether you're crouched, kneeling, squatting, you want the movement to come from your hips. So try not to bend, twist at your back. So pivot your body when you're twisting as much as you can, meaning orient your whole body rather than twisting only at your spine. And then when you bend, you hinge. So try and maintain your back flat, ears, shoulders, hips as you lean. And that is a strategy to protect the back when you're doing bending. The other major thing is that you have to let yourself take these little micro breaks. So like 10, 15 seconds at a time. If you're starting to feel the discomfort, change position, sit, whether it's the toilet seat or stand, change a position for 10 seconds. You can take 10 seconds. Say you do it 3 or 4 times during the bath. Let's say every 5 minutes. And I'm estimating, how long does it take to bathe, let's say a large animal?
It really depends. If they got a lot of hair or you're doing conditioner, you could be in there for anywhere from, if they've got a short coat, 10 minutes to a half an hour, depending on the kind of treatments you're doing.
Okay. So let's say that we take 10 or 15 seconds up to, 3 or 4 times during the entire bathing process. You're losing less than a minute of your time to change your posture. It's called a micro break, and get yourself out of the position briefly, intermittently throughout that bathing process to give the body the break. Otherwise, you're just staying in the same position and it's contributing to more and more stress and more pain. And then by the end of it, you're like, I'm really uncomfortable.
That is fantastic. I'm actually going to process that, because we talk about taking breaks all the time, but we're so focused on getting things done, and we're on time crunches a lot of times. But I think if we say, you telling me you don't have 5 seconds to take for yourself, and as someone who's going through physical therapy right now post surgery, boy, the physical therapies takes a lot longer than not having the injury in the first place. So yeah, and it is totally time to press a button, but we'll be right back in 30 seconds. Hanvey Engineering isn't just for mobile groomers. I have loved my Hanvey equipment for years before I even thought of getting a mobile van, and I wouldn't want to groom without my Bathing Beauty and hair vac. With every piece of equipment in their van and outside of it having its own QR code linked to troubleshooting tips and fixes, these low-maintenance workhorses turn potential roadblocks into mere speed bumps. Check them out yourself at hanvey.com. My brain's going to be focused on micro breaks and how I can work that into different classes for like a good hour. I'm not going to obsess too much.
You can help a lot of people.
Yeah, because I mean, people need to hear in general that they're allowed to sit to take lunch that doesn't have dog hair in it. So maybe we can start small and say 5-10 seconds, just change position to something that doesn't hurt. Give a stretch in that moment. And if you have to get back because you have to reach that, or you have to help keep the dog in the tub, yes, he's secured, but he's trying to lean and he's all go. But yes, just let it go for 5 seconds. So excellent. I had down, looks like we're almost going to get through this. I think we're going to get through this list, because there's a very important question I'm saving for the end. Don't worry, I won't miss it. So one of the things I talk about in my class is the ergonomics of PPE, which is personal protection equipment. Things like masks and good shoes and floor mats and ear protection. What are some of the things that you recommend for PPE regarding grooming?
So shoes that cover your toes. So like, closed-toed footwear.
Yeah.
Because of the sharp objects, right? So that, and I'm just thinking in comparison to other industries that, like I've never been on site at a work, any place I've gone on site, that any type of PPE requirement related to dealing with sharp objects, clippers, it's always closed-toed, not steel-toed, but like closed-toed, just closed-toed. Shoes seems like a very reasonable thing. Now, one thing I thought was really interesting when I recently did a job that was at a spay and neuter clinic, and this light bulb went on. I was like, you don't really have to wear gloves. You have more dexterity when you don't wear gloves. There aren't like bloodborne pathogens that, I guess, cross from humans to animals in this way, in this environment. But it kind of, this whole thing, I was thinking back to my days in the hospital, was like the amount of gloves I went through, but just for you to see people drawing medications and putting in lines and doing all this, dirty work, so to speak, with no gloves, I was like, you guys are lucky. So I assume in grooming, there's no utility for gloves. Is there?
There actually kind of is. You're right in terms of a lot of people don't like to wear them because of you lose some dexterity, and we like to feel the skin. However, there are some diseases, not necessarily bloodborne, and that's not my expertise, so I'm not going to speak to that, but there are certain things that are carried on the feces that can affect groomers. So that a lot of people tend to be more lax about, because they're like, well, we're washing it. So that's more of a case of don't blow out dirty coat, because then if there's something like, well, for example, ringworm, is just one that I can name off the top of my head that cross contaminates. I know our friend Angie Coates could probably list like 5 or 10 more, but there are things that could be on a dirty coat that could transmit to a human or to other dogs in our care.
Right.
So there's certain things, there's not as much with gloves, but especially since we're not really doing anal glands anymore.
That was my question.
What was that?
That was my question. If you do anal glands as part of the groom.
We do not. We should not. There are some that do.
There's
a lot that do still.
That if you put 10 groomers in the room and you just list ear plucking, anal glands, we could go a couple of more things. We'll have fist fights.
That's a fist fight topic.
I'm
the quick
so
version,
curious.
Okay, the quick version of why this is a fist fight topic. Personally, if it is inside the dog, that is a vet job. The anal glands are an interior gland. They're an interior organ. When you work at a spay neuter clinic or work at a vet clinic or kennel, the way the vets and the vet techs express the anal glands is internally. Mm-hmm. You glove up, because the glands are on either side of the anus. You get in, you hook, and you kind of squeeze with the thumb on the outside and one finger inside. Most groomers are taught to externally do that. And you've got a higher risk when you're externally expressing anal glands of that gland rupturing, of you not getting everything because you're not fully getting behind it. You know what I mean? Like if you think about it like as a big zit, can you always get behind the zit to squeeze? This took a turn. This took a turn into deep groomer land.
I didn't know that. And so, like it's pretty like, right. When I was working as a tech, obviously I would always wear gloves when I would express anal glands.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm thinking about the grooming tasks themselves. Like, would a groomer wear gloves for when you're using scissors or when you're, okay. It would just be part of it, not the entire process.
Correct. The time a groomer would be most likely to use gloves is during the bath, because that's when we're coming in contact with feces, urine, fluids that may be on the coat. Hopefully we're not working on dogs with very contagious like mange or ringworm or things like that a good bath isn't going to clean. It's not going to take care of that. So it's normally just in the bath.
Just on a side note, when one of my dogs needed to have the anal glands expressed, I brought him into the vet and the vet gloved up. And then I asked her how much it was. And I'm like, you did not charge me enough. Mm-hmm. Seriously. You did not charge enough for this service. Can I tip you on this? Because this is, she did it correctly. You know?
Oh, yeah. I think the first time I saw anal glands done correctly was when my idiot dog, who's asleep over there, hadn't pooped for 2 days. And we took her on our anniversary to the vet, and they gloved up and they got in there. And I was like, oh my God.
It's a lot.
That's yeah, y'all don't even get tips. This is why my bill is this much. Okay, I'm okay with this now.
So getting back to the PPE, gloves make total sense for bathing because, well, it's right, because that's where the contact precaution comes in, right? And also you're in there, doing this kind of thing with making a lot of, it's an unfair comparison to drawing blood from a sedated animal in a spay neuter clinic. And then also, the abrasiveness of soap for some people, I can imagine that's like the different, that kind of things. So I always say when you use gloves, make sure they fit you properly. If they're too loose, you'll lose dexterity. If they're too tight, then they put pressure on your palm and your carpal tunnel area. So,
and that's actually, I just thought of another question.
Let's hear it.
It's a trick question, but I was going to say, and that's actually another like iceberg question, because a lot of people go, well, I need to use gloves because it just dries out my hands. And then other people are like, well, then you're clearly not using the right products and conditioning on the dogs, because if you use good conditioners and oils, they're like, my hands are like butter.
Well, there's also people being, groomers being allergic to the product itself.
Yes.
Yeah, we're all different skin sensitivities and things like that.
Oh, I have to hit another button for our last commercial break, and then I will ask you that question that I'm, now that I remembered it, dying to ask. Okay, I love my Evolution swivel shears, and you even know that these customizable shears come in non-swivel as well. But did you know that they're the only ones I've been trusting my sharpening with for around 15 years, and that's how we met? What? You haven't tried their sharpening yet? If so, send in your next batch of sharpening and you'll get one shear sharpened for free with a $75 order, just for telling them where you heard about them. Your shears and blades will thank you. Okay. So in my ergonomics class, I do talk a little bit about carpal tunnel, because it's like the elephant in the grooming room. And when I was doing my research for my class, I looked up braces and different braces for carpal tunnel. And the only sites that I could find that said, yes, you want compression for this, were sites that were selling the braces. So I'm like, all right, well, let me ask 2 different chiropractors. And one of them said, it's a compression injury. Why would you compress it further? I'm like, that's what I said. And the other one went, well, if you got it, the key is you're compressing it away from the injury, and you're doing it to push it away from the injury. And I went, that sounds like, to me, it sounds like it's got to be fit just so, and just right, and just the right size and the right amount of compression. So I go into that in my class and basically say, do what your doctor says on that. I'm not a doctor, but feel free to weigh in on this minorly controversial topic, apparently.
Yes. I think chiropractor number 2 is getting at putting the wrist in a neutral position. So not pushing, like not compressing it in this counterbalance way, but just the idea with a brace is that you're bracing in a neutral position. And then when you're not in a neutral position, then your carpal tunnel is getting pressed.
Okay, so he was more thinking traditional brace, not like, those compression sleeves.
Yeah, I'm probably on the field of less compression is better. Like even like mouse wrist rests, I'm kind of opposed to those, because it's better to just float your wrists and type, if your chair is adjusted to the right height, with nothing under the wrist. So when it comes to carpal tunnel, a lot of times people wear braces at night to help manage their symptoms, because when you sleep, what happens to your wrists? There's no control over what you do with them.
So hard.
But it would be much more in that, like I worked with somebody actually recently in one of our injury prevention programs. He said, I tightened it as tight as I could. And he's not getting any better. I was like, don't do that. Don't tighten them too tight. So the brace should not be as tight as you can get it. It should be it should be tightened so that it's keeping your wrist in that position, but not compressing. That's my 2 cents. But I second Chris on, if you are under medical care for carpal tunnel and you have been advised by a physical or occupational therapist or someone
wear else, XYZ brace,
follow their guidance on that.
Shameless plug, because I work for them and love them. Because Evolution shears are fit to your hand and they have a double swivel mechanism, you can actually groom in a wrist brace, because you can keep your wrist totally straight and get the scissor in any position you need it to without doing this and getting your elbow up above your ear and doing like anti-yoga that hurts. So there's that.
I want to say one more thing about that that came into my mind. Again, from my rehab days, working with people post spinal cord injury, whatever it is, carpal tunnel, brain injury. One of the things occupational therapists do is teach people how to feed themselves again. Did you know that there's such thing as a swivel spoon and a swivel fork?
I've seen that. It's fascinating. It's like on a gyroscope, so that is your hand is shaking a little bit and you can't do the fine motor skills, it doesn't spill the food as
Right.
much, like in
It
your
uses gravity basically,
yeah.
and so it's kind of the same idea in that if you, whether it's whether you want to avoid those awkward positions because you know it's going to bother you, or to your point, if you wear a brace, if you already have a problem, if you don't have the range of motion, if you had, in my case, with the patients I used to work with, spinal cord injury, brain injury, and you can't do the motion, the tool does it for you. So someplace the motion has to happen.
Right.
And so that's kind of the same as the swivel shears. And that popped in my head earlier. I wanted to make sure that you saw that before.
That's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
So as we are definitively going to go a couple minutes over time, but not that much, the super important question: what could a grooming salon expect from a consultation with your firm?
Yeah. So it all usually begins with some type of assessment of your work processes. So recognizing that all groomers and the spaces they operate within are likely different. And there's different standards and different practices that I will need to understand before I could help you. So usually we engage first in an assessment of some type, whether the end game is, a report of recommendations or perhaps a training, perhaps a toolkit or a digital library of resources that I put together for their team. And so usually what I like to do is collect that information, pictures, put that into a package training, whether it's a pre-recorded training, a live training, simply a library of resources, whatever kind of meets their needs as far as the right media and method. And then creation of dynamic warm-up exercises is something else that I do.
Ooh.
So task specific, job specific, after that analysis takes place, what is the right kind of set of warm-up exercises for groomers or mobile groomers or home-based groomers? And then what are the recovery strategies? Some of the other strategies that I mentioned, let's spell them all out so we have this thing we can all do together. We can do this warm-up program at the start. We can use this digital library or training library or video to train everybody that we onboard. And this is our standard as a company. This is what we want to do because we want to keep our people safe. Let's not say it, but we want to reduce workers' comp. It's not always, companies care about dollars and cents, but we also care about the well-being of our people that work for us. And we don't want to see them in pain because the quality of your work suffers then, your productivity suffers. And so I think the bottom line is what I do is I help people manage those risks and help them do better, perform better at their work because they're performing in a space that is causes less bodily pain and fatigue. So that's what I do. That's what I would do with a traditional kind of outreach from, let's say, a grooming company. Also provide consultation. So I've provided consultation for products or consultation for design of a space. Like if you're going to buy a van and you don't know how to set up correctly, to be more ergonomic, that kind of thing. So once again, anything under the umbrella of assessment, consultation, or education, customized for the job at hand.
So we just recently did an episode on physical things and equipment that we purchase to invest in our business, whether it be our shears, tubs, hair vacs, dryers, all of the physical stuff. But this, and we're going to have another episode talking about intangibles. This definitely to me falls under those. It's an intangible thing. Unless you have that onboarding video, it's not like a product you can touch. You can't go, this is my brand new shiny pen that is going to be amazing and help my job. But this is something that is still an investment in your business and is going to be amazing and help your body and your health.
And it kind of changes the culture of your workplace and your workforce. It's a safety mindset and making that kind of an integral part of how you operate and how your team thinks about things. And so that, it's hard to pinpoint what that is, that safety culture, that culture of ergonomics, but there's definitely ways you can grow that. And I think the return on investment, as it is in a lot of well done ergonomic interventions should be very, very high. So I'm much less expensive than a workers' comp claim. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. 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 You know,
or lost days, or lost
lost
days,
days,
or lost hours, or you had to call out sick because you're in pain, and then how many grooms did you lose because of that? So there's all types of measures in terms of return on investment that have nothing to do with even workers' comp.
Fantastic. Well, Mary, is there anything else you wanted to add? We're about at time, but this is
No,
flew
I
by.
think I'm good. Like I said, I'm going to be messing around with my chair, and just because I realized that, you know what, my chair should be at least 3-4 inches higher.
Making you reach up. You're reaching up if your chair is too
low. Do you
low.
need a footrest, Mary?
And I'm probably going to have to now go buy a footrest. But then, but that's what Amazon is for.
Right.
That's what Amazon is for. And make sure you either measure or do they make adjustable footrests?
They do.
Get an adjustable footrest, because now you have to keep your knees at that neutral position. You can't have your knees like way up.
Mm-hmm.
Don't fold yourself. All right. Well, Nikki, thank you so much for coming on. I look forward to working with you in the future. And I'm now putting this out there on the air so that this will force me to be committed and save my pennies. But I am planning on working with Nikki and getting a consultation to improve my ergonomics class to make it absolutely the best it can possibly be, because especially educators need to keep learning.
Yeah, there are a lot of adjustable footrests on it.
Nice.
Okay.
All righty.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for being here. And everybody, safe travels. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Well, that was fun. But now it's time to head home. We hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed chatting with you. If there are any topics you'd like us to discuss or guests you want to see join us on this crazy road trip of ours, let us know in the Traveling Groomers Facebook page. Don't forget to thank our sponsors. And see you next week, guys. Safe travels.